All right. Welcome to the Nathaneal podcast. Today we have Nick Daigler. Hey, Nick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's my first time to have someone who also has a podcast, actually. Have you been in other
Hmm.
podcasts before?
I've been on one other podcast. Yeah, a good friend of mine here in Austin had me on a few weeks ago.
Well, if you don't mind, what podcast was that, or who was the creator?
His name is David Arclair. I think that's
Hmm.
how you pronounce your name, David. No, he's not on Twitter. It's all on YouTube.
Ah,
I
I
met
see.
him at
Gotcha.
this walking group in Austin. Yeah.
Gotcha. What I'm interested, what got you into podcasting? Because I feel like you're a natural podcaster, more than a creator, Like I feel like you do more podcasts, I think.
Hmm. I'm just naturally curious, and I genuinely enjoy people and
Mm.
learning about other people's interests and their
Mm.
stories, because to me it's just fascinating how there's so many different diverse perspectives out there, and I'm trying to increase my level of awareness and like learn, and it's just cool to hear from people.
For sure, for sure. And do you have any particular lessons or ideas that you through your podcast that you kind of like really impacted you in a deep level?
Lessons, nothing at a deep level, to be
You're
totally
right.
honest. Like
Okay.
everyone that I've talked to, mostly everyone I've talked to, I've known beforehand. I mean, a
Gotcha.
couple ideas, like main themes, like okay, psychedelics, go your own way in life,
Yeah.
be strategic. These are all sorts of things that have been like on my mind for a few years. That's not me saying like I know it all by any sense of the imagination. But nothing that's like really jumped out and been like, whoa. I mean, one cool thing, I learned about cool, like more niche movements that I would have otherwise like not known of. There's one guy I talked to, Louis. His name is Yoga Acid, yoga and then acid, but there's only one A. He founded this movement around psychedelics called Psygaia, and I've since joined. He's got like a community on Circle that's
Hmm.
all about like integrating with psychedelics, people helping each other kind of derive insights and meanings from their journeys, just discuss it. That's like one cool little movement that I've found. So that's another reason I like podcasting. Like it helps me find rabbit holes that I would otherwise not find.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I'm glad that, you still hopped on here, considering that we met what, a week ago or something. And you
Hmm.
say that you like most of your guests are you've known for a while. But I'm curious, you talk a lot about psychedelics and on like to be honest with you, I haven't got into that. Well, I don't know if it's even legal here in the Philippines, but could you I want to learn more about it. Like what does Nick think about psychedelics or how do you view it?
Hmm. What do you mean? Can you like what do you mean? How do I view it?
So it's like if maybe an easier way of thinking about it is what are the first things that pop in your head when you think psychedelics?
That's a good question. I honestly I don't like talking to other people about them or
Oh,
like
okay.
because no, like I'm down to share. Like I never want to seem like I'm pushing them on other people because
Right.
like if people I think people will find them in their own time if they
Yeah, for
want
sure.
to.
Hmm.
And I mean, if people are curious, the best way to learn anything, not just with psychedelics, like anything is just kind of fuck
Do
around and
it.
find out, like direct
Yeah.
experience. Yeah. Like if someone's curious, I'm just like, go try it out,
Hmm.
go do research, like not a doctor. I guess the one thing that comes to mind, maybe like a framework I like to think about like anything in life, like things that are like highly stigmatized. Like I just like to question like, okay, why is this stigmatized?
For
Like,
sure.
is there something else here? Just food for thought. And yeah, a good place to start that I wish I would have started before exploring them was learning about the history uh and how they relate to the legal system.
Yeah.
If anyone's curious or has feelings about psychedelics, it's like good place to start that I wish I would have started at.
For sure, for sure. I'm actually now interested about it because I've been hearing like I'm part of Jack Moses' cohort, and he talks about psychedelics, and I listen to your podcast. Now I'm interested with it, but again, I don't know if this is like legal in the Philippines, dude.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like everyone do your own research. Dude, yeah, if you're curious about them, like try to find out. Like, yeah, I guess how do you think about it? How do you view them?
Well, I've only heard about, funnily enough, I've only heard psychedelics from Jordan Peterson. So, because I'm a Jordan Peterson fan, and like I listened to all, I literally listened to all his lectures. So if you go through my YouTube, like you'll see that all his videos or his lectures at least are played. And like there's this one video that he actually talked about psychedelics and how it could be a pathway to like divinity, like not divinity, but kind of like interacting with the divine. He talks about how he even talked about how it could be possible that the people who wrote the Bible, well, yeah, who wrote the Bible were like on psychedelics. He said something about that.
Hmm.
I don't remember. I don't know if I'm accurate, but that was like the first that was my first impression of psychedelics. Like it gives you experiences that kind of like heightens your perceptions, or just giving you access to places that would be blocked in normal times, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
I mean, what's coming up for me when you say that is the idea like the observation process of your own mind as you're on a psychedelic. Like some
Hmm.
people will get visuals, some people have these
Wow.
different sensations. Maybe like lights will seem really bright, or maybe it'll get really dark. But to me, what's been really fascinating is like, okay, throw all that aside and then just like placing my awareness on the more meta process that's happening. It's
Hmm.
like the fact that some knobs are being cranked in my brain
Hmm.
and that it's changing my perception.
Hmm.
That in and of itself, I think, is incredibly valuable. I think that's one of the most valuable things, just watching your awareness and how that changes and how easily, relatively easily, or how like effortless it's changing.
Right.
I think there's a lot of value in just contemplating, that is interesting. I can
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
take this thing and these things happen. Like maybe my whole life is just perceptions and interpretations. It's it's also, I think it's really closely the way I think about psychedelics, it's also closely linked to my experiences with non-duality. Like
Hmm.
in my mind, if you take non-duality to like a logical conclusion, like if everything is just like pure consciousness and mind,
Hmm.
psychedelics are kind of part of that. And so it's like
Hmm.
you are consciousness, you are just mind,
Right.
consuming consciousness or mind, and
Hmm.
some it's producing some effect. And so I think one way it's helped me remove some of the stigmas I had kind of coming into like exploring them, thinking about it in that way of like you are consciousness consuming consciousness and it's producing some effect. But the thing is with that, like a lot of people will talk about non-duality
Hmm.
and it'll come from like a point of like belief. I don't want to, I'm not sitting here like preaching non-duality, and like if anyone's listening to this and it's like this sounds like bullshit, like yeah, you should not believe me. You should like go try to experience these things yourself. And just
Yeah.
from my own personal experience, like I I've had non-dual experiences and it didn't come from meditating for months on end or years on end. It came
Hmm.
from consuming psychedelics and experiencing that in the body. And there aren't words you can put to it.
Hmm.
Like you need it's something it's comes back to direct experience. That's the only way I think you can really learn and understand something.
For sure. I've studied that, like you mentioned about meditation and psychedelics. I'm friends with someone from here from the Philippines too, and he talked about that's actually like the Western Western versus Eastern conception of like non-duality, where
Hmm.
like the Western idea is actually like you go from 0 to 100 immediately. So it's like psychedelic experience, like you're not you're you have the idea of duality, and then you just go to non-duality to unite with consciousness. And then he said that in the more eastern part, they believe in like gradation. So it's like you actually go up the ladder. That's why like they practice meditation. So they believe that what you mentioned, like they go from zero and then they up, and then they become non-dual. Non-dual.
Mm.
Yeah, just
Yeah, it's
sharing that.
interesting. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Yeah, that's super. It's interesting. What philosophy practices that, do you know? Or like what kind of school of thought is that?
Um, he didn't say anything particular, but I would believe like probably some form of Buddhism in the eastern part, but in
Mm.
the western part, I honestly don't know. Um, I because I feel like in the western, western gods, you may say, Jesus Christ, he's like God, he was born God, he was already God. So it's like 0 to 100. While in the more eastern gods, it's like Buddha was a prince, right? And then he kind of became enlightened, and then he became a god. So it's something like that.
Mm.
I think it could be connected to that. I might be mistaken. And
Hmm.
to people who's watching who know better, I'd like to hear your insight on that.
Yeah, this is new to me. I haven't thought about how the way people relate to religions within like Western or Eastern society is connected to their conceptions of like 0 to 100 with non-duality
Yeah.
or gradations. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is crazy. I've been into that space. I don't know, like I was always curious as a kid with religion and even God. So if you don't mind
Hmm.
me sharing like my story a little bit,
Yeah,
um,
go for it.
I grew up like not having a father. Like my father left before I was born because I was an accident child, and my mother was like, she was ashamed of an accident child, basically. Like she didn't abandon me, but she didn't own me. So she changed my identity. I became my grandmother's son, and like technically, like legally, I was registered as my grandmother's son, and I was just like a lonely child, like, having a lot of trouble. I was smart. I did well in school, and my family was kind of like happy about that. But other than that, I was like very lonely. I was like contemplating life, right? Like I was thinking, man, what does this mean anyway? Like if anyone could lie, if people could just be cruel like this, my father leaving me and my mother doing this to me, like what's the point? Why are we all here? So I've always been interested in, reality and God, but in a in a different way, I think. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, how has that shaped your view of religion? Any sort of like metaphysical questions, like, what is existence? Like, why are we here? Like those experiences growing up.
For sure. So I was in a dark place. So this is my philosophy, right? Like not my whole philosophy, but part of my philosophy. I was in a dark place. It was really, really bad. And I'm not discounting like other people's, everyone has like a gradation of hell. Everyone knows what hell is for them, right? Everyone knows what's the worst for all. And I'm not saying that my life was the worst, but my worst life was that. It was just horrible. And I was like a nihilist, bro. So I doubted God. I doubted everyone. I would like I remember I would go because the Philippines is a Christian country. We're a Catholic country. So everyone is a Catholic, and questioning God is um it's kind of like wrong. You're like an outcast if you question God. And so I was that guy who's like who didn't give a shit, I would just question everyone, like even a priest. And I remember questioning a priest one time, and he just got mad. And then that just like that was the end of it. That proved my point. I was like, oh shit, if a priest can't answer my question about God's existence, um, then there's no God, right? It doesn't make
Hmm.
sense. So honestly, like my turning point was meeting Jordan Peterson, which is why
Hmm.
I really am a fan of him, because he talked about how there's this quote from Nietzsche that he talked about in Lex Friedman's podcast, like battle not with monsters lest you become a monster. Um, if you stare into the abyss stares back at you. And then he continues it. He's like, well, if you stare into the abyss long enough to the darkness, there will become a light. So if you stay in the darkness long enough, you will see a speck of light, and then that light will turn brighter and brighter and becomes hope, right? And then now, once you find your way out of the darkness, you can like kind of help other people find their way out of their darkness too. So when I learned that, I also kind of like explored other, actually physical fitness is one of them. I met David Goggins, and I started just doing, running every day, like doing his crazy stuff where if my legs don't work, I'm gonna do push-ups, I'm gonna do pull-ups. If nothing works, I'm gonna like walk. I don't know, anything. I would just do anything. And then fasting, those things. It just, when I realized that if I stay in the suffering long enough and not go out of it immediately, if I settle there, I would find peace in the suffering. And then I could tell people who are already suffering that, hey, your suffering is not that bad. Or your suffering can actually be, you can find peace in your suffering in a way, if you're perceptive of it. So I don't know. Well, what do you think about that?
About which part? Dude, yeah, that's quite the story.
What do you think about like finding peace in suffering, I guess?
Finding peace in suffering. I mean, yeah, I'll come back to the first thing you said about everyone has their gradations of hell.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is like cliches from like the Joe Rogan podcast, but like the worst thing that happens to someone is the worst thing that happens to them. Like
Yeah.
we all know, all we know is like our bubble of
Mm.
existence, and like it's all we've ever known. And so, dude,
Right.
100% with you there. I think you just build confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
Because in order to go through that, it's like you usually need an intention. And to set an intention, you need some ideal and belief that the future can be better. And dude, I don't fucking know where that comes from. Like, I think some of that, there's like a bootstrapping process where you're like, I think life can be better than the way it is.
For sure.
And then what comes from that is the intention. What comes from that is like following through on that intention. And it's a snowball both ways. Like once you set an intention, you start building confidence. It's like just keep building on that. As soon as you slip up, it's so much easier to slip up and have it like every entropy is so much easier than like staying in
for sure
some sort of order. But it's not like one thing I was related to Jordan Peterson as well. And one thing I think he gets wrong, or maybe I misinterpret it or haven't heard everything he's said on this, but he's really obsessed with like order. Like order is just not, it seems like there's like a moral quality about order that where it's like above chaos. Where like the Ram Dass thing where he's like surfing on this wave, he's like surfing through the chaos of life. Like that's more of like, I think that's more of my vibe. Like I'm just trying to sit in the middle. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
About that. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question about peace and suffering, but that's that's where I find I agree. I think there's peace, and there's a self-understanding too that comes from being able to set an intention, commit to it, and like follow through. And I think that self-understanding, there's so much satisfaction that comes from that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of, for me at least, that's where I started to feel like, wow, like I am like literally all I need. Whether like, I have a romantic partner, whether I have like a bunch of friends, like I'm like cool me. Like I'm cool with me. Like it's great to have all these things like, yeah.
For sure. I remember something like when you talked about earlier, can't seem to remember, but you were talking about intention, right? Funnily enough, like I always thought I wanted to change the world. Like what you mentioned about intention, that's what I thought when I was a kid, because everything was crappy, right? I would think, man, this is all so crappy. When I grow up, I'm gonna change the world. Like that was I guess that's, and I don't know where that came from, as you mentioned, but there was always that urge to like change the world so that other people wouldn't have to experience what I experienced. So that's probably my intention, and yeah, that's
Hmm.
probably my mission. So
Hmm.
yeah, so
Yeah.
mhm.
I mean, I think some of that comes from, because I've had the same thoughts.
Yeah.
I think some of that is just a general, like a pretty normal progression of like human development,
Mm,
especially like ego development.
yeah.
Um, there's like a mind, like a crusader sort of mindset that I think most people go through where
Mm,
they think, I'm gonna do big things. I'm gonna really change the world, and sometimes that happens.
mhm.
But like, you know, even after you die, it's like people forget about you in a few weeks. Like even like
Yeah.
some of the greats, like it's people forget pretty quickly.
Mm,
And I mean, my current thinking or my current thoughts around life purpose and big mission, I
mm,
really think life purpose is like just for you.
right.
And it's like what that how people interpret that and what they
Mm,
do about that, I think
mm,
looks very differently. Everyone's
mm,
got different perspectives, different worldviews, different backgrounds. But I think trying to be a missionary and really go crusading
mm,
for on the behalf of other people from a
yeah.
place of, okay, I need to be a
Yeah.
savior. It's like it's where it's the intention. It comes back to like intention. Like where is that coming from?
Right.
So that's yeah, my 2 cents
Mm,
on um crusading as a life
right.
purpose from a place of, okay, I need to be a savior
I totally
or I
get
want to
that.
be a savior. Yeah.
Sure. But I think just going back to what you said, I think it was really for me more than for others. It's like I didn't want that world to happen anymore for me to be safe, not for others. Like it's more like it's for my
Hmm.
security so that I know, okay, I've done my best so that my pain is like in a way cured, not really cured, but
Hmm.
like I feel I don't know. I just feel like it was more for me than for others because I wasn't really thinking of
Hmm.
others. Like I wasn't really
Yeah.
thinking helping someone else. I was just thinking I'm gonna change the world so that I could feel better, even if it looked like for
Hmm.
others.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting because it's like then the process of like going down that path, you
Yeah,
end up changing your world
yeah,
because of like the things you do, and then you realize, oh wait, this intention was really about changing myself.
yeah.
And I think this is a Jordan Peterson thing. Like the best way to change the world is to change
It's change
yourself
yourself
first.
for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, yeah,
it really is. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
that's because it's all you can. I mean, I was gonna say it's all you can really control, but it's just, yeah, dude. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I made this. I don't know. It just came to me like this idea from a because I'm a ghostwriter and I'm ghostwriting for a client right now,
Hmm.
and it was I don't know if it's his idea, but it's the idea that like work is a flow of energy, and if you just give that flow of energy to like the community, it ends, right? Like because your energy like just emits. But when you work for yourself, so like if this is yourself, this is the community, you work for yourself first, and you can give back. There's like an infinite amount of energy that you can give back to the community because you're self-reliant in a way. Like your energy
Hmm.
flows within you and you can like emit the extra ones. So I think that's
Hmm.
what you're talking about. Like it's kind of like it burns you out when you're just thinking of other people and you're not giving back to yourself. Like if you what happens if you die? Again, what you mentioned, like people are gonna forget you in like 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
the best way really, I think, is to like work for yourself and then in effect give to others in a way.
Yeah, because you can't show up for other people, like relationships or people that you don't even know who don't have a relationship with,
Yes,
if you're not. It's kind of like the whole fill up your cup before you fill up other people.
sure,
Like you can't, you just need to overflow into people. And the
for
only way
sure.
you can overflow is like if you're feeling really full, if you're healthy, dude, totally with you. And like what happens, I've noticed with myself when, I'm prioritizing the needs of other people over
Yeah.
myself, like I start to resent them.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
start to recognize how I'm like subtly giving away authority over my
Yeah,
life to them, and
yeah,
like just really just really trivial ways too. And that
Mm.
over time compounds and can just burn you out. And eventually you blow up and then you reset and you're like, oh fuck, I gotta focus on me for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the
And then
cycle
you,
repeats if you know what I mean? Yeah, it's like
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
for sure. Um, Now I'm thinking about that, I developed a morning routine because of that, because I feel like the morning routine, or like just having a time for myself in the morning, will like fill my cup, and then I can do anything after that. Do you also like have a morning routine for yourself or
Dude,
something
it
like
depends. Like
that?
my weekdays look a little different from my
Right.
weekends.
Okay.
Just have a day job. So on weekdays, like I like to get up really early in the morning,
Mm,
maybe like 5-ish. I'll do like a little bit of meditating. I'll
mm,
hit the gym and then like straight to a coffee shop.
mm,
And then I'll like log on at work
mm.
for like 9 a.m. or so. Weekends, I'll sleep in a little later and do like a
Right.
longer meditation, maybe go for a longer run,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I'll usually get on my laptop around like 10:30, 11 or so, and do like a few hours of writing or whatever kind of content I'm producing that day.
for sure, for sure. So how do you fill your own cup, if you don't mind me asking?
Meditation,
Meditation.
breath work,
Mm,
weightlifting. I've recently gotten back into yoga. I do yoga probably like 3 times a month.
mm,
Been I mean, that's been great. Um, Community as well. Like I've been going to Danny Miranda's run club here in Austin every Tuesday
cool.
morning. This past Saturday, I tried out a new run club. I
Yeah.
found for me, like I really like having that social time also be linked to like physical activity.
Oh, I
I
see.
tend to find people that like I vibe with
All
in
right.
those settings. Um, Talking to my brother, shout out at Michael Daigler underscore. Uh, he's yeah, he and I are best friends. He and I are best friends, and he's also on. We've been on. It's interesting. We've been on a similar journey, and like sometimes we'll diverge, but it seems like we just keep coming back, and it's just
Gotcha.
like looks like this, and it's so interesting to um, see that in both
Right.
of us and
Is
relate
he
to one another.
is he like your older brother or your younger brother?
Younger brother, he's 22, I'm 25.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's
Yeah, but
awesome.
that is how I fill my cup. The gym has been something I've used for years to fill my cup. Like
Right.
that, if I'll start to go crazy if I'm not moving some weight.
For sure. And you, I think it's one of your tweets or in your bio, you mentioned like you help Chads get jacked. Well, what do you like? Where did that come from?
Dude, yeah, like honestly, I needed a bio. Like, there's no cool story there. Like, I'm just like, who do I want to attract? Like,
Just
people
Chads,
that are
that's it.
like chads, like based dudes that are like, all right, let's go. I've since changed my bio to something. Actually, I was talking to Jack on Friday about my bio, or he like pulled it up on his phone and just like seeing my profile on his phone. I was like,
Yeah.
ah, fuck, like, let's change this. Like, I don't know if I want to label. I don't like being labeled as like a fitness guy, and that's
Yeah,
something
for
I'm
sure.
like personally trying to navigate because
Mm,
like I'm helping out a few friends on a kind of an informal basis, offering fitness advice, but it's also could be me projecting
yeah.
like past insecurities about this, like meeting people, and the first thing is like, dude, what's your workout routine, bro? Like, and like I never I just don't. I try to like I downplay fitness so much when I talk to
Yeah.
people in person. I'm
Yeah.
just like, this is the last thing I want to talk about. I'm not. That's not saying I don't want to talk about it
Yeah.
now, but yeah, that's why I changed my bio. Yeah, no really cool story there.
Gotcha, gotcha. Do you know Tyler, like Wiz of Copy?
Yeah, I talked to him last week for the
Yeah.
first time, actually. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. He actually also like had, I think not, he's kind of like similar experience with you because he had like an injury, I think. He said he was in my podcast like recently, 2 weeks ago, I
Mm,
think. And like he had an injury in a football game. And then he mentioned how he healed himself through breathing and through like trying to meditate and all that. And then he was doing that on Twitter for some time, and then he was just like, "Now I'm not gonna do this. I don't want to be a fitness guy." And I'm thinking now, like, do people just do fitness because like they think that it's useful, or like they actually want to talk about it?
Yeah. I mean, I can share my experience. Like, I just like took a look at the things that I'm like really passionate about in
Mm,
life, and that I think the thing with fitness is like you can't buy it, and you can't like get really proficient with it. It's not like you can just like become a great ghostwriter overnight. But it's
yeah,
like if you've been lifting weights for 10 years, there's like no real way for someone else to speed run that.
yeah, for
Like
sure.
it just takes like time. And so my
Mm,
thought process was, this is something I can establish authority in. I think
mm,
it's really competitive because like so many people are
yeah, so
doing it.
many.
And yeah, and one thing I don't like about it is like the information doesn't really change.
Yeah,
Like it's like there are like nuances. People are like doing, studies about okay, how to best build muscle, but like when you're coaching people, people are just looking for like the 80-20 here. Like
yeah,
no one's trying to be like a professional bodybuilder
yeah,
usually. Like that's not the kind of coaching like I'm interested in. Maybe then it's more interesting, but most people need like, okay, there's like a list of basics that you
yeah,
can probably fit in like one page of a Google Doc if you really tried. It's like
yeah,
do this. There's a lot of nuance and we'll do calls, but the idea of wrapping up the same information over and over and over again, just like I've got other curiosities that I want to explore,
yeah,
and I just don't want to spend time on that
yeah.
right now.
I think you made the video about that. I was looking through YouTube earlier. It's like
Mm,
you were talking about how to improve your sleep with Huberman. It's like you're like,
mm,
really, no one's going to follow Huberman, this daddy something. And then you were like, well, it's really obvious. You just have to like eat healthy,
yeah.
exercise. It's just obvious. Like everyone knows it already.
Yeah, if it was an information problem, everyone would be jacked, shredded. Like it's not an information problem. It's like that's the thing, it all comes back. It's all everything's a personal problem.
For
It's
sure.
all like inner game. And
Mm,
that's the real thing that people need to fix. If they don't need to, they don't need to do anything.
yeah.
I'd recommend fixing.
For sure, for sure. It's just a matter of discipline. And what do you think, like, what got you into
I
the
actually don't
whole?
think it's discipline. Actually, I
Oh,
want
I
to touch
see.
on that. I don't
Okay, sure.
like I think part of it is discipline, but the discipline only lasts so long.
Okay.
Like because eventually because your body like your psyche is just a complex system, and whenever you
Mm,
like fuck around in there,
yeah.
like it's the way I describe it, it's just gonna like give you a right hook. Like it doesn't like complex systems don't like to be fucked with. And I found personally like and through guys I've talked to that
Mm,
really take that disciplinarian approach,
mm,
eventually like something cracks,
mm.
and that
And then they
crack can be
stop.
like off, and it's like, okay, I'm out of the gym for 3 months, or
Right,
I'm gonna go binge eat for a month. I'm gonna go
right,
binge eat
right.
for 2 months, or I'm gonna just like eat whatever I want and tell myself it's muscle. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
when you get in
yeah.
the gym and you finally cut down, you realize, fuck, I've regressed and I'm
Right.
weaker and I'm fatter. Um, it works for a long time though. It
Mm,
has gotten me great results just whipping myself into submission. But over time, it's more of just like I want to do this from a better place. And it
right.
sounds very like woo woo and like no gym bro wants to you're like I know if I heard this from someone, I'd be like, fuck that. Like and that's why it's so important to meet people where they're at with fitness because
Yeah.
everyone's at a
It's
different
the
level of
yeah,
development.
yeah.
It's so different. Like this is not the advice I'd give to like a 15-year-old getting in the gym. I'd say, dude, you're probably looking to fuck girls or something. Like get in there, get shredded, get jacked, like go do that. Like whatever is gonna get the job done. And
Right.
then eventually
It becomes
transition
like,
to more like,
yeah.
wow, I really like the way I feel in my own body. Wow, I
Mm,
really like the respect people like immediately give me. I
mm,
really like being able to talk to people and help them with this.
yeah.
And so it's important. I think just I want to double click on it because it took me longer than I wish it would have, I guess, to like make that transition away from just whipping myself into
Right.
submission.
I totally get that. Now that you're talking about it. Yeah. Well, but I think it's also like, as you mentioned, it's a matter of discipline in the beginning. But I don't know, for me, when I was like disciplining myself, I started like loving it automatically. I didn't even
Mm,
had like, well, there were drawbacks sometimes, but then after my drawbacks, I would just kind of like forget about it. It's like I remember this. I was in a call like with in Jack Mo's cohort with Danko, how Danko said like if something wrong happens, that thing just happened and you can just move on. And I think a lot of people who have the discipline mindset, it's like when they do something wrong, they go snowballing the other or like the opposite directions instead of like forward. So I think the positive effect of discipline is when you discipline yourself, you can like snowball in the positive direction. You know, like from
mm,
discipline, it becomes just you enjoy it. And then sometimes you even wake up and then you don't work out and then you just feel an itch in your body. Like you just feel like, man, I gotta do something. You know? Have you
hmm.
ever had those
Yeah.
times?
Oh, dude, yeah, all the time. Like, I need to be in the gym like
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 times a week. Like, if I start slacking, like, yeah, I need to start moving my body. Yeah, dude, I'm with you because the cool thing about the discipline in the beginning, it just builds like that habit, that muscle
Mm,
where it's like, this actually isn't like this is enjoyable. Like,
mm,
it goes from me not really. I mean, I've always liked it. Like, that's the
yeah.
thing. Like, I can't relate when someone says like, fuck, it's so boring.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
hate
Yeah.
this. Like I go through periods where I'm like, the gym, like I find it boring, but then
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I find ways to make it more
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I think those who people who say it's boring are not trying hard enough, honestly. I
That's
mean,
facts, yeah.
it's like I see a lot of people. I mean, now I just work out at home because I'm a night shifter and like, there's no gym here that's open 24 hours. So it's kind of like hard because when I wake up,
Hmm.
you know, I kind of need to go immediately or not immediately to work. I would still like work out. I just found it like more convenient to work out at home. So I bought like
Hmm.
a bike and I have like a pull-up bar and then I have like dumbbells and I just do work at home, like literally just working out at home as well. But
Hmm.
before, when I used to go to the gym, I'd see like people, they would carry, like they were big, like they were, huge, but they would like get the smallest dumbbells. And I'm thinking, man, like they're doing this and that. They're not like, you can see that they're not putting effort. And then they say, like, you see them like scrolling through their phones for 20 minutes and then doing that for 5 minutes. It's like,
Hmm.
I feel like those people, I mean, you could probably bench 100 pounds considering that he was
Hmm.
big. And I feel
Hmm.
like those people who say that it's boring just don't push themselves enough, if you get what I mean.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know. Like when I see that, I'm just like, ugh, like they're here. Like good on them. Like I don't know. Like it's so like people don't need to lift weights if they think it's boring. Like I'm
Right.
more of the
Okay.
opinion
I
that
see you.
like
I see you.
they can do it's just like finding something you like
Right.
because we all have like different dispositions and like if someone really thinks it's boring, like maybe it's like they're not going hard enough, but maybe there's just
Mm.
something about it just isn't
It's
stimulating.
in
Maybe
this.
they like to be
Gotcha.
around people, maybe they like to socialize more.
Maybe they
Um,
like running,
yeah,
walking, those things, right?
something that I mean, enjoyability I think is so underrated
Yeah.
these days, especially like Andrew Huberman, all these podcasts talking about okay, how to optimize this or that. It's just like
Productivity.
well, it's like sometimes what's optimal, I think a lot of times what's optimal is like what's most enjoyable because what's
Right.
most enjoyable is gonna last over the
A
long
long
term.
time. Yeah.
And yeah, like like every time, the more I focus on trying to optimize things, like the worse things get.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as soon as I'm just like, okay, focusing on big picture, sleeping, eating healthy foods,
Yeah.
really like trying hard in the gym, like
Right.
just kind of
Doing
big
what feels good.
staples. Yeah, and you end up making a shitload of progress rather than focusing on like that's another thing. I think there's just so much information out there
Mm,
And it's hard to discern. It's hard. Discernment is hard in general, I think, these
mm,
days. Like
mm.
cultivating discernment has been something that's on my mind that I've talked to podcast guests about. Like I struggle with it. Like I don't know how to cultivate discernment in some
Yeah.
new sort of field.
Yeah, yeah.
But especially with like health, there's so much out there, and everyone's incentivized to repackage similar kinds of information in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
That's hard for someone who, I mean, it's like, but they need to do that to make money. Like, if that's your
Yeah,
livelihood, like, you
yeah.
need, it's this whole game. That's why I really think enjoyability is like, okay, find something you enjoy, do it for years and don't
Right.
stop. It's
I,
like great advice.
I think the first thing that popped in my head when you were mentioning this was like the flow, you know. And I think
Mm,
we could kind of connect it to what I mentioned about not trying hard enough. Because flow is like when you try hard enough, but not too hard, right? And then it just
mm.
becomes like it goes upward. You've heard of flow, right?
I have, yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just thinking about the relation of like this to flow. Because I'm not sure if I get what you're saying.
Mm.
It's like, I guess, yeah.
Because it becomes play, you
I
know, and then you progress. So as you mentioned, like look for something you enjoy
mm,
that doesn't feel like it's hard, but it
mm,
is kind of hard because again, you're like pushing yourself somewhat, but
mm,
then again, it's not too hard. And so you kind of like progress and you go through higher levels without even
mm.
noticing it because it's just enjoyable. It's just play, I think.
Got you. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about that more because, like,
Yeah.
I really know. Like, I'm not saying when I don't want people to interpret this and hear me say like, oh, like don't try. Like, no, like try hard as fuck. Like, you like try really fucking hard at
Yeah.
life. Like, it's like I don't think trying really hard to
Mm.
like control the outcome of
Mm,
something that
right.
you enjoy is necessarily kind of like antithetical to flow. It's not really like you're trying to control the outcome. It's more of like you're just really fucking trying. And I
Mm.
think that that is like a natural byproduct of something that you like really enjoy.
Right.
Like,
Because you just
yeah,
want
I
it.
don't want, yeah, no, you just, there's just something in you. You're just like, I want this. I want this. And that's why
Yeah.
I think enjoyability is another, um, why it's crucial because it's like, you're probably gonna try way harder doing something that you enjoy. Like, a good analogy is, I'll use like a gym analogy. Maybe, you just watch some YouTube video on some channel. They're like, well, this is the
Athlete
optimal
index.
exercise for whatever. But when you do it, you're just like, damn, I'm just like not really feeling it. You try out this other machine or something, and
Yeah.
something just clicks, and you're like, damn,
Mm.
that feels so good.
Yeah, yeah.
You're probably gonna push yourself way harder on
For
that because
sure.
you enjoy it. You can feel that stretch in your muscles. You can feel
Yeah.
things contracting. Um, yeah, I think enjoyability and effort are very closely linked.
For sure. For sure. That's interesting. Wow. For some reason, I thought of Jordan Peterson and what you said, like, because it kind of connects to what you're talking about, like surfing the waves. So
Hmm.
it's also kind of like you're pushing yourself, but it's in
Mm.
something you enjoy. So you're like surfing chaos and order in a
Yeah,
way, right? Wow.
yeah.
That's an interesting like connection from
Mm.
earlier.
Yeah, no, full circle, dude.
Yeah, for sure. So, I like to end my podcast by asking my guests like their top five resources that kind of like shape their personality, their career, or just your favorite song, book, anything really. Like just from the top of your head, five
Top
things.
five.
Yeah.
Damn, bro.
If you can think of like only one, sure, dude.
Yeah, like, cause I think it's like I'm gonna give my like my thought process. I'm
For
gonna give
sure, for
like
sure.
one resource that's like I've only found it within the past 6 months here that has
Mm,
like completely transformed my thinking. Um, because like what I've come to realize is that the best thing for me is like learning like how to think and more of
mm,
like evaluating what I actually think I know.
right.
And I mean, I found this through Dan Coe. Like I was taking
Yeah.
Dan Coe's 2 Hour Writer, and he mentioned, "Oh, go check out this video from actualize.org,
Yeah.
like 65 principles."
Yeah.
for the good life or something. I'm like, all right, like it's like in a little footnote, don't see it anywhere else. Like, let me go down this rabbit hole. And little did I know, like I would just start binging actualize.org video after actualize.org video. I don't even know how many I've watched or just like listened to. Like I stopped listening to all podcasts these days,
Just actualize that.
all audiobooks. Yeah, like I know some people think it's like a cult, so when
Yeah.
they hear me say this, they're like, dude, this dude's deluded as fuck. My experience has been that he's, I don't know, it's not a cult. If someone was interested in anything about
Yeah.
me, or if they take one thing away, just like go watch an actualize.org video.
That's
Just
it.
go watch one. Just go
That's
watch
it.
one. Like it doesn't have to be that 65 principles of the good life.
Yeah.
Like literally go to the channel, scroll down, look, find one that like seems interesting,
Mm.
watch it all the way through, and then if you're like, oh, this is bullshit, okay, sounds good. Like fine.
So what would be your, just out of the top of your head right now? I know that there's a lot, but what would be your top takeaway from actualize.org?
Psychedelics. Go try it.
God, we just really went back full circle, bro. That's the first
Yeah, we
thing.
did. And I guess like I'll give resources that I found earlier on in life that
Yeah,
were helpful. Matt Ogus, go check out Matt Ogus.
sure,
Like I
sure.
love Matt Ogus. OG fitness YouTuber. He really shaped my perspective on the gym. Go check out 3D Muscle Journey. Great resource for people that want to pursue natural bodybuilding. They take a really holistic perspective on muscle growth that I think is just
Gotcha.
really refreshing that I don't find anywhere else. Books, let me scroll through my Audible real quick and just give some book recommendations if that's all right.
For sure,
Give me
dude.
two
Go
seconds
for
here. Okay, let's see. Um, The Four Agreements. I've heard that one talked about
The
a
Four
lot.
Agreements.
The Four Agreements. That's a great book. Um,
Wow.
Denial of Death by Ernest Becker. The Courage to be Disliked. It talks about Adlerian psychology, which is really interesting. Um,
Hmm.
Green
Visual.
Lights, that Matthew
Oh,
McConaughey
dude.
autobiography.
I love the
Yeah,
green. I love green lights, bro. I read
yeah,
it
dude.
like 5 times, like not even 5 times, like 6 times, 7 times.
Really?
Yeah, because it's just
Wow.
I I don't know, because again, I mentioned to you about like my childhood. It was, it was a strict family, and then it was just like, I think this is why I keep on talking about discipline, and kind of like, I think that's why I just initially mentioned earlier, it's just discipline, because that's what I was taught. It's just like
Mm,
force your way through things. And I never really thought of doing what I love in a way. Dude,
mm,
this is kind of weird, but again, I was watching your podcast with Jack, and then he mentioned about like having, performance issues when it comes to intercourse, right? He mentioned that. I
hmm
was like, dude, that was also me, because I was also that guy who was like always anxious, always had to be disciplined, always had to be like just straightforward. And
mm,
I had a hard time like even looking for my desires. Like that was one of my problems. I didn't
mm,
know what I want. Like if you took me to an ice cream shop and you asked me what I wanted, I would like not know what I want. I would just choose whatever everyone else wanted, because I didn't know what I want.
mm,
So yeah, that's recently been healed because of like, well, green lights was a big thing because he was talking about like his life and how he was just a free soul, and I was inspired by it. And
hmm
also my girlfriend right now, she kind of introduced me to like just following your desire. She's kind of like woo
hmm
woo too, and so she
hmm
talks about like the sacral chakra and all that, reconnecting with all that.
Dude, that's sweet. That's
Yeah,
awesome. I'm
yeah.
so happy to hear that, dude.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, there's that. So thanks, Nick, for hopping
Dude,
in as a fun
yeah, this was
conversation.
great.
Yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
for having me, bro. This was
We should
awesome.
we should do your podcast too.
We should. That'd
Yeah,
be
yeah.
amazing.
Awesome, awesome.
I'm
All right.
down, bro.
See you soon. Bye,
See you
guys.
soon. Bye.